There
There
we
we
go.
go. I played some
I
music
don't.
at the beginning, and yeah, Instagram
I
wasn't
went off
liking
on
that.
a. Okay, I went off on a tangent talking about meditation because you asked me
Okay,
my favorite, one of my favorite subjects. But
continue.
well, well, no, I mean I want to talk about hip hop, but I was sharing with you that there's no greater gift in life than presence, and that happiness comes in the present moment and nowhere else.
Right.
And so I was saying, like in cases of extreme meditation, or, or maybe if you took the right MDMA, or if you were drunk enough, or if you were fully present and awake, that's where all the happiness lives. When the mind is empty, so you meditate so the mind settles, and when the mind is settled, everything unravels. And this is the goal of every effort you make in life. Every time you buy that car, every time you have that random sex and that moment of orgasm, every one of those events are the payoff. And all it does is ends the neediness. But, if you have frivolous pursuit, then the neediness arises again very quickly. But the goal of the yogi or the good Christian is to live heaven on earth. And if that person is living heaven on earth, then he's fully present and awake all the time, right? And this is what they call enlightenment. So that's that shit right there that you asked me about. So today we talk about the violence in
Well
the
said,
community,
man.
right?
Well said.
When we talk about violence,
Well, yeah, let's get into this whole Takeoff situation from the Migos. He got unfortunately gunned down yesterday in Texas. Say it started from a dice game. The video looks as if Quavo was arguing about basketball. And unfortunately, a fight looked like it ended up happening. And somebody started to shoot, and one of the bullets hit Takeoff and took his life.
of course, that's all uh, been spread around the internet, and people are talking about it. It's very, very sad.
Very,
Um,
man, very.
you know, um, we pray that something like this, an event like this, will wake us up, and maybe not fully, but more and more each time that each individual who hears it gets a chance to move closer to a better space where they don't participate in these things. They realize how frivolous these actions are, and they become purveyors of good. Our community is twisted. Like, our reflections of our truth. I'm not saying this has anything to do with the amigos, but all of us live in a world where violence is the norm.
Yeah.
And all of us can kind of escape when we can, either through our words and our poetry or through our actions in our community. By reversing the violence, we then get out of it. So, whether it's the peacekeeping programs that I've been involved in with Captain Dennis Muhammad in 25 cities, or Erica Ford and I Love My Life and her life camp programs, and Man Up in Brooklyn. I mean, we have these programs all over the country that are fighting violence in the hood. I want to call attention to them because I think each of us, if we're in the hood, we know those people. A lot of them aren't funded properly, so if we support them. Maybe we get city governments to help. Because that's, New York, we really got a big support from Bill de Blasio and now from Mayor Adams. So we need funding for these programs. I saw Tamika Mowry posted that yesterday. Mosquitoes in the morning, not usual. But that being said, so each one of us could do what we could do. Fuck with the nation, the local community groups that are fighting violence, and do what we can to curb violence ourselves in our speech and actions. So, and executives can help to change stuff. Like, people are blaming, today, someone sent me a text, this morning for me, but one of the morning texts, blaming executives for the words of the artists. If we're in the industry, we know that mostly the executives can say nothing to a poet about what to write
Oh, at
about.
all, at all.
Right. I remember the South Central Cartel had an album, for instance, and I have many examples of this, but I'll give you this one, called In Gats We Trust, the gold
Mhm.
album. No radio, gold album. In Gats We Trust, the South Central Cartel. Um, that album was pretty violent, and they were Bloods, Crips, and they talked about they didn't trust the police, their family members, and others. They trusted Gap, so they trusted their guns and nothing else. But they explained why because I asked them, and they wrote the same songs, but only the explanations made it so much easier. Not only easier to digest, but it made their life's journey and their aspirations to get out of the struggle and the suffering that they were describing clear. And then it didn't become um, glorifying violence or any of that. It became a whole different album. And it's
1 second, Unc. I can't hear anything you saying.
lots and lots of ways. And I think we need to, as executives, we can, as Black executives and A&R people, we can give our experiences to these artists and these writers in ways that may be constructive. And I think that's the goal for those who are paying attention. Now, the senior executives, who are not connected to the culture, they can't open their mouths. So a lot of this wave of blaming them seems to me to be a waste when we ourselves are poisoning, the community. All right, tell me what you asked me some questions.
1 second, Rush, because I see the sound cut off for a second. Everybody put a 1 in the chat if you can hear Russ. If you can hear him, put a 1 in the chat. If you can't hear him, put a 2.
It's back, it says.
Oh, we're good. We're good. Okay. All good. All good. But yeah, I heard everything you said, though, Unc. We're good.
I'm just saying that, we can make a difference as A&R directors and as artists. Artists have two sides. We all have a better self and a lower self. We all do. And everybody can have aspirations to escape the struggle and not promote more of it. We all do. And it's all valid. There's none of it corny. We can write Jesus Walks all day long. Know that we like what we like. It's the track, it's the chorus, it's the wittiness, it's the information being delivered. It ain't got to be drill music. It don't. So I just share that with you. So I'm not here to criticize the music as much as I am to criticize the culture. The reflection of the culture is also a cycle of giving back to the culture the same dirt that you suck in.
Right.
Or the same good. There's good in the culture as well. So I share that, as an older person, are you young, you want to rebel, you want to fight. And that argument, you say, oh, but we're only telling the truth. Yeah, there's a lot of truth to everybody. So as an older person who has tried to, I came out of, we were in a gang, 7 Immortals. We weren't born yet, but, we was violent and ugly. And then, we evolved. And as you get older, it's stupid, right? So you, as a person who's older, and you can direct younger people, you should remind them. It's not new. Shit you saying ain't new. I mean, the level of violence is new. The number of rappers we're losing as a reflection of the number of young people in the hood that we're losing weekly and monthly is new. And it's just on the rise in a dramatic place. And we talk about culture so much as an influence, and we can do something about it if that's our industry.
I hear you, Unc. All right, let's switch topics a little bit. Let's get into this Kanye West situation. I see you guys had a little back and forth on Twitter and Instagram. What advice would you have for Kanye?
It's easy. Find out where you were insensitive. Apologize where you can, and move on. I think that also moving on is not so easy. I think part of his moving on is to stop his tens of millions of fans. A great number of them are taking his words out of context and promoting hateful speech. And I think that we can put stuff in, we can say things in a digestible way. My first instinct would have been, had I been a member of, if I had been working at the ADL or working at, I used to run a foundation, the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding, is talk behind the scenes, promote education before publicly dismantling this guy's life. That's my first effort always, to try to get people to understand and have dialogue before publicly having a fight. And therefore, those fights promote a negative energy among millions of people when it could have been done, just handled between a few. And what we don't want is a rise in hate. Racism and anti-Semitism are tied together. So if we love the Black community, then we want to be careful about this growth in anti-Semitism and growth in anti-Black behavior and words. So when you look on the internet, you see fuck the Blacks and the Jews, fuck them niggas and them kikes. I've seen that a lot on Twitter, or at least I've seen these people.
A whole lot on Twitter.
Right. So there's a lot of hate, and the hate of Jews and Blacks go hand in hand, and has always. The Jews have been like the second-class white people. They were the ones who were working in the music industry. They were working wherever white people let them work. And they built great success in all the places white people gave them a break. So
Right.
You can work in entertainment, that's dirty. You can work in finance, that's dirty. You know that finance was dirty. So they worked in those industries and they excelled. They excelled mostly because their culture was tight-knit, their religion was crystal clear, their faith in their religion and their work that God promoted for them was strong enough that they could work as community and build even in places where they were just left nothing to play with, and they created something. So when we went to them in jewelry and fashion and film and television and financial services in some cases, and jewelry for me in some cases, I went to them in all these different areas. The WASP didn't want to fuck with me. It was always the Jews. And and even when I did fashion, no Black people in fashion, I put Jay-Z in business with, and Damon Dash in business with the Russian Jews. I had 75, and they did Rockefeller partnership, and they sold it for a couple $100 million, but it was ownership on the part of Jay and Damon, and it was a distribution and management of the brand partnership with Norton. I saw Norton the other day. He thanked me. He said I made him rich. But I get the same thing from so many people who were my Jewish partners in sneakers. We did $500 million in Fat Classics, right? Nobody heard that shit because nobody's fucking with sneakers. Like, you couldn't, if you had sneakers, you were a cornball. If you wasn't made by Nike or Adidas or Puma.
Right.
So everything else was corn. I was like, fuck that. We can own our own. And we had to you weren't born. We had a reparations campaign.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Run was on the back of the bus with the ad saying reparations, right? And we had our shell toe version, and our sneaker cost $100, and the Adidas shell toe was $39.99. So we did
y'all outsold them. Y'all put the price up on them.
Oh, at that time we outsold the numbers of sneakers and the gross profits and margins and everything else. We did that. And
I was killing, man.
Black people could own our own, and we could convince our people that we didn't have to be owned. Or that's talk about slave mentality. The idea that you have to work for Nike when you know how to manufacture. I'm in Asia. I can go right down the block and make sneakers.
Right.
Well, maybe not down the block. I have to go to China, but I'm saying I'm not far. I'm a rock throw away from the manufacturers, or calling me like crazy, asking me, can I connect them? I'm not involved in, to manufacture more clothing, including even Yeezy. So my point I'm making is we can make our own, and we can partner. I partnered. It was Simmons Jewelry. The Roush family made the jewelry and licensed it. And we were in Vales and all those stores, right? It was, Fat Farm. It was our company. We owned it. And, we sold it. And we sold it, a young men's company only lasts as long as the young men till they get grown. And after that shit is done. Like, you can't come downstairs as a JoJo on the Run TV show and see Joe sitting on the couch. He's 100. right? You see Rev on the couch wearing a Fat Farm hoodie. He's like, I'm not wearing that shit. You know, because that was a young and cool company. Young, cool companies die when they get old. So we were lucky enough to get out in time. And maybe now is the time for a resurgence. If I was interested in fashion, I'd buy the brand back and start over, but I'm not. But my point is, we could build our own and own our own. So, you know, I'm hopeful that he would make amends, take back the words that are hurtful or insensitive, and especially those words that may be untrue and just and with no valid point. You know, there's some things he said that have no valid point. I have nowhere in the dialogue between blacks and Jews. Blacks and Jews have a future, a common past that they've both been oppressed, and they have a common future where they vote the same for the most part,
Right.
with the exception of the Orthodox and more serious religious Jews who vote first for Israel. The rest vote for a progressive agenda that helps underserved communities. So not a big number, but they vote with us, and they're most likely to empower us, and we have to empower ourselves is the answer, right? You know, you can't say, oh, if you look at their success, I don't guess white men are doing so well against them either. You say, look at their number on the Forbes 400, it's disproportionate
Oh
against
yeah,
blacks,
they pretty
but
much run
also
the
against,
list.
right? But how the fuck is that why is that our problem?
True.
That's our inspiration,
See,
right? That's our,
that's the part. That's the part where I kind of feel like Kanye's message kind of got lost. At least me, when I watched a couple of these interviews, I kind of feel like that's what he was trying to say.
no, I don't think I think a lot of what he said is absolutely true and valid and necessary. That he admires, especially as a religious person,
Definitely, he's
right?
huge
There's nothing
religious.
in there's nothing in the Torah that's not in the Bible.
Right.
And so on all those issues where family goes home and prays on Friday night, and where family doesn't abort, you know, all the things that he aligns with them. He said he's jealous of their ability to live up to the promises in their scripture. But that's only religious Jews. But he's saying that, and what that means is he wants our community to emulate and borrow from those success stories and tie together, which of course we all want that. I don't think that's gotten out as clear to say that I admire them. But, you know, he's a genius. He's all over the place. And he said some things that are so hurtful that all they can hear. And especially if there's 11 million Jews or 13 million total.
Yeah, I actually learned that from you. I learned that from you.
And if you think about that, there's 6 million of them are in Israel. And so when they're under threat, when people point out things that, you know, their success has been their downfall in other areas, and they're hated because of their success. Those are what they call haters, right? And this is what caused one of the reasons for the Holocaust, right? Their success. Now, so when you start to point it out, it makes them sensitive because they are at risk. Be wiped out like that. And so their experience hurt people. And perhaps they lash out very quickly. My advice and work that I've done for 25 years is to reach out, not only for anti-Semitism, but anti-Black statements so that we don't get in a public dispute and create more polarization. Like I think I said that. So that's just, you know, it's clear that to us, we don't want to see Kanye, you know, killed. We want to see Kanye rebuild and promote Black empowerment and include people, and also reverse some of the negative dialogue that's in the community and teach his millions of fans to love themselves and to love humanity, not to hate. We don't want him to be an inspiration for hate. And so I think he can do all of those things, but he needs proper support and guidance. And that's why I was still talking to him, and I haven't spoken to him since my text came out. But, you know, I still pray for him to turn around, do good, and lift up his community. That's what I pray for. All right. What else?
So Kyrie Irving,
Oh,
staying on
same
the.
subject. Same thing. We that tweet was I don't like what Charles Barkley said. That was he should have
I
won
didn't
and
like what
weighed
him
in.
or Shaq said. I didn't like what either of them
No,
said.
I don't. I didn't like it for myself. They could have an opinion and they're welcome to it. And I'm not saying that that's the only what I say. Maybe it's a combination of everything. But first of all, why I didn't like it, not because I haven't seen the film.
Mm-hmm.
If what's in the film, denial of Holocaust in the film, then the film, no matter what's in the other 3 hours, they should be denounced. If it says there's no Holocaust, and if it says the things that they're, but it seems to me that in the film, well, I don't know. I've heard that those things don't exist in the film, but I got to watch it before I comment on it.
Same
But I
here.
would say
Same
this.
here.
Here's what I say. Here's what I say. The same thing. This tweet was sitting around with no discussion. I never heard of the film until after this
Until the
event.
media blew it up.
The media blew up something because it was pointed out by people who watch groups and concerned with hate. If you are a watch group and not concerned with just funding and not just concerned with public accolades, then you would immediately go to Kyrie and explain what the sensitivities are around the film. That way, none of us would have ever discussed it, and it wouldn't be passed around the black community as a reason to fight with Kyrie and his millions of fans, because it looks like he was bullied. And if that's the case, then all of his fans are upset. And we don't want that. We don't want them to be anti-Semitic. Kyrie is definitely not in any way, from what I can
At
tell, an
all.
anti-Semite. Right. He loves religion. All religions are one in his mind, kind of like the yogic philosophy. So I like reading about his belief system because it's about love and about collaboration of religion for one common good, for the
Right.
upliftment of humanity. So knowing that about Kyrie and then seeing him demonized when all they had to do was go to him personally and say, here's why we're sensitive, because we're threatened. And I think that was the choice that we could have made. This is why I didn't like what they said, because I don't think they know the background. Their first thing was, let's educate our brother, not denounce him and demonize him, and then threaten his fans because they feel a certain way. When you tell Will Smith he's an anti-Semite, millions of people get up in arms. When you tell W.E.B. Du Bois, all the way up to Tamika Mallory, that they're anti-Semites, and we know that nothing is further from the truth on Tamika Mallory is our most recent hero in civil rights. When you
Right.
call Reverend Sharpton and Reverend Jackson an anti-Semite, and call me, who I spent my whole life fighting anti-Semitism, an anti-Semite, simply because I used the word Holocaust at the time when speaking about animals. 200 billion animals made to be born into suffering to destroy the planet and poison us is, I thought, a Holocaust. But when I was told about
I would think the same thing too, huh?
but the sensitivities around the word came up, and I was like, my point is not about that. I don't give a fuck. I immediately said, if you don't want me to use the word Holocaust and you're going to get all up in arms and make a public fight over it, I want to fix it quickly. So I was
Right.
quick to apologize. But that's just me. If I was Simone, my little animal rights friend for 40 years, she would have went crazy, and there would have been a fight, and we don't want that. Not over that. What we want is to stop the suffering of the animals and stop the poisoning of our people and the destruction of our planet. We don't care about the word. We care about fixing it. And this is the same with Kyrie. All we need to do is talk. And dialogue is key and king. So I'm very disappointed in the way they handled, because I was the chairman at one time of an organization that handled these things. It was handled poorly. And then the NBA and everybody getting involved, it's just bullshit. And so, I'm praying that they can fix that, and Kyrie can come out with as many sponsorships and growth opportunities and friendships and growth as possible, as much of that as possible. And even that he could spread his ideas of multi-religion love to all of his followers. right? That's it. So what else? Kyrie and Kanye to the side. It's the millions of fans and the millions
Right.
of people and the 25, almost 30 years of work that I did unraveling that upsets me. It's the 25 years of bringing people together and then watching them fight publicly and online that I worry about. Of course, there's a summit that should be held about Black empowerment and Jewish partnerships and the future of Black-Jewish relations and the political and social agenda that we can share. That's something that we should talk about because we are under attack. And white supremacy is sitting around laughing while we fight.
True that.
What else? All right, so the future of hip-hop, can we
Let's talk
get off
about
that
it.
subject?
Let's talk about it. What's the future of hip hop in your opinion?
No, what I want is for us, we had hip-hop summits all over the country. Minister Farrakhan spoke at least 3 of them. And everybody came from Will Smith and the Rockefeller team, all of them, to the Bad Boy team, all of them. I remember Puffy was one of the moderators. We did, and everybody from the NAACP and the Urban League, all the Black, even all the mayoral candidates in New York came to the one in New York that Farrakhan spoke at. Everybody wanted the hip-hop voice. The hip-hop voice is so powerful, the best brand building voice in the world.
Right.
If it says something's good, damn, it's like whatever they pick, if it's a Maybach or a Phantom Rolls Royce, whatever, Gucci or whatever they choose,
Gucci, Fendi,
luxury,
whatever, Chanel,
whatever, all of that. Why can't we brand things that uplift our community? Why can't we brand things that empower economically and spiritually and socially our community? We can. And so the more we get signs that we can do better, the more we should. And each individual can do better. Say, oh, hip-hop, they're doing this and it's foul. It's not all hip-hop, right?
No, it's not.
It's not all hip-hop.
It's what you choose. It's what's advertised. I will say that.
Well, they advertise what's selling.
Yeah.
Jesus Walks is selling. They're going to advertise Jesus Walks.
True.
I think it's up to us to choose the higher selves when we can and use those things to inspire our community and lift our community up. When we can, and each individual has the potential to make their choices. And I think that the trends sometimes do become, they seem to be the easy route for some. But they're not. When you want something big, you got to be original. This shit got to be new. It's got to be. Another record about the same subject or even, the same music, sound. There's some sounds that, right now, there's some beats that feel like that's the way we try to dance. And that beat is, governing, driving the narrative, right? But it ain't got to be. You got to find where you do something innovative with the trend. And I say that to the producers who all of them know that, but there's a difference between those giant breakout explosive songs and records and artists and the rest. And those people are original. So always try to be original.
Well, I'll ask you this. So do you think if, let's say, 100 J. Cole's just entered the rap game this year, people that rap with substance and that actually, care, 100 J. Cole's and 100 Kendricks, do you think that the marketplace would they dominate the marketplace for music, or would they kind of fall into the match?
You're asking a question about content rather than creativity.
Right.
If there were 100 J. Cole's, they would dominate the market. If there was 100 Kendrick Lamars, they would dominate the market. There's no question. But they got to be J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar. It can't be just that someone is conscious and, it's nothing to do with that. It's like it has everything to do with what do you create. True. You can play. If you got something as good as Jesus Walks, it's gonna play. Everything got to get out the way when the right shit come out. And if it happens to be, what was that, brother? What was that song we played during the Million Family March by Kendrick Lamar? Niggas gonna something.
I gotta look it up. I'm gonna have to look it up.
You know what I'm talking about. That's a big ass song. That motherfucker was huge. And inspiration, it was an anthem. We played it during the Million Family March, or was it the Million? But it was the Million Man March reunion, right?
Okay, I know somebody's
20.
gonna comment it soon. Somebody knows.
Somebody tell me what that song is.
Yeah.
Niggas gonna work it. I feel like I'm gonna say, hey, brother gonna work it. That's how old I am. I go back to the fucking brother gonna work it out. No, it's not that, nigga. But it's that, we gonna work it out. We gonna work it out, right? But yeah, we gonna be all right.
We gonna be all right. We gonna be all right. There we go.
Stupid fucker. Why you don't know, nigga? You work in hip hop. But if you get those songs and each one is original, then it'll change our culture and lift us up, and that's what we need to do. And if individuals can want because you also, I'm a big believer in the imagination is God, as Yogananda said, and what you say comes back to you. So if you are selfish and you want to be happy and you want to be successful and you want to be a good influence on your family and then you have to say it. The imagination and your words are God itself, and that's it. So that's Yogananda's word. The imagination is God. And of course, Reverend Ike, you may not know Reverend Ike, he's for your time too. That nigga, he was the greatest prosperity preacher. My brother, Reverend Run, was a disciple. They used to have Rolls Royce parades and shit. You don't know Reverend Ike? You don't know, do you?
I don't know Reverend Ike. I know your brother,
mama.
though. I know your brother.
But he's a prosperity preacher. And Reverend Ike would say everything was about the imagination. He was a mystic. He owned half of California. Reverend Ike, nigga, look up.
Hey, I got to do some research. I'm in Cali, so I got to do some research on this.
Of course. He was the cover of Jet Magazine, I don't know how many times, cover of Ebony. He was this prosperity preacher. And he was a mystic. And he, like Osho and so many great teachers, believed in, and prosperity preachers all take his lead. So this is true. What you say is who you are and where you go. And what's in your heart comes out of what you say. But if you don't have it quite in your heart, you speak it till it's real.
Correct.
Speak it. Speak your prosperity and your power into existence. That's the thing. Can we speak ourselves into a greater existence? Forget what we're looking at. It's what we want to see. And you have to say it. There's in the yogic philosophy and in the Hindu religion, but in yogic philosophy, we have the goddess Lakshmi. Lakshmi, you see the image of her, she's just giving. And as she's giving, you see there's diamonds at her feet, and quickly as she gives, she gets. Good givers are great getters, right? And what you give the world, you receive. So this is not only in the yogic philosophy, but this exists in all philosophy, from the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Yoga Sutras, the Buddhist scriptures, all of them. And so if we say, we talk dirt, we will live dirt. And that's for individuals who are selfish. Take that with you. You know what I mean? And if you could do that, then it's a shift in your consciousness and your level of success and your level of happiness, which is the core benefit for all of the worldly success, happiness, right? And the success in the world, if it's monetary and others, will not affect your happiness. It's your success in delivering what you believe in. As you are delivering because the work is the prayer, not the result. So as you're doing the work, you get it back, and you get back, the effort becomes happiness. So anyway, that's just this morning. It's nice to talk to you, and I'm hopeful that you can make a positive effect. I know you have to report the news, and a lot of what's spreading is negativity.
Very,
and a lot of
very negative, man.
Yeah, well, God bless you as a person in the media. Try to lean towards good.
I try, man. I try every day. I lean on my faith.
Yeah. Speak good things into existence. All right? All right, baby. I got to get ready to go to class. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for your time.
All good. Good talking to you, man. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.
All good. All right, y'all. That was Uncle Russ, coming in, dropping the gems. I hope y'all took a lot of notes. If not, we gonna upload this. It'll be on YouTube. It'll be everywhere. So if you ever want to come back and hear Reverend Rush talk that shit, you can. But I'm about to get up out of here. I'm about to watch these games in a second. I'll holla at y'all later. Y'all have a good day.